So let's just jump right in with a huge question. How much control do you really have over your own life? I mean, are you the one calling the shots, or are you kind of being pushed around by the world, by other people, without even realizing it? It really boils down to this classic chicken and egg question, you know? We all like to think that our beliefs, our core attitudes, are what drive our actions. But what if that's not the whole story? What if, sometimes, the things we do end up shaping what we believe? All right, so first up, let's explore that traditional way of thinking, the one we're all familiar with, the idea that our inner world is firmly in the driver's seat. So let's get on the same page. When psychologists talk about an attitude, what do they even mean? Well, it's pretty simple. It's just your evaluation of something, whether you feel positive or negative about it. It's your take on, well, pretty much anything. And it turns out every single attitude has these three core parts. Psychologists have this handy little model they call the ABCs. A is for affect, that's your feelings, your emotional response. B is for behavior, which is how you intend to act. And C is for cognition, your thoughts and beliefs about the whole thing. Let's make this real with an example. Say you've got a positive attitude about recycling. Okay, so your affect is that good feeling you get when you do it. Your behavior is, actually putting the bottles in the right bin. And your cognition is the underlying belief that recycling is important. See how that works? Affect, behavior, cognition. Boom, boom, boom. All nicely lined up. Now, this all seems super neat and tidy, right? But here's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Does this connection always hold up? Can we always predict what someone will do based on what they say they believe? Well, this is where it gets interesting. The answer is a big not really. And that leads us to this really wild part, this surprising twist in the story. It turns out this isn't a one-way street. It's not always belief first, then action. Sometimes our actions take the lead, and our beliefs have to do a bit of a scramble to catch up. And if you want a really stark, kind of chilling example of this, look no further than the infamous Stanford prison experiment. You had these ordinary college students just randomly assigned to be guards or prisoners. And within days, the students playing guards started developing genuinely cruel authoritarian attitudes. Just acting the part completely changed their internal beliefs. It's wild. Okay, let's bring this back to you. Have you ever had that feeling, that little kind of queasy feeling in your stomach when you do something that doesn't quite line up with who you think you are? Maybe you splurge on something you can't afford, or you tell a little white lie. You know that feeling, right? Well, there's a name for that. It's called cognitive dissonance. It's that internal static, that uncomfortable friction you feel when your actions and your beliefs are out of sync. And here's the thing, our brains absolutely hate feeling this way, and they will do just about anything to make it stop. So, if your brain hates this tension, how does it fix it? Well, it basically has two escape hatches. Think about a smoker who knows smoking is bad for them. That's some serious dissonance. To get rid of it, they can either change their action, which is hard, right? They can try to quit, or, and this is what happens a lot, they change their belief. They start telling themselves, the research isn't that clear, or, hey, my uncle smoked his whole life and lived to be 95. They rewrite their beliefs to justify their actions. Okay, so we've got our own actions messing with our beliefs. But what happens when we throw other people into the mix? Oh, that's when things get really interesting. Let's talk about the incredible power of the group. It's funny, right? Just having other people around can push us in two totally opposite directions. On one hand, you have social facilitation. When people are watching, you tend to do better on simple tasks you're already good at. But then there's social loafing, where being in a group makes you kind of lazy because you figure someone else will pick up the slack. And you can see this playing out perfectly right here. On the left, you've got a cyclist who's probably pedaling way faster because they're in a race, they're being watched. That's social facilitation. But then on the right, in a big game of tug of war, it's easy for any one person to not pull quite as hard. That's social loafing in a nutshell. And this can get even more extreme. There's this phenomenon called de-individuation. This is what happens when you get swept up in a crowd and you feel anonymous. You can lose your sense of self, your normal inhibitions just melt away. And that can lead people to do things, good or bad, that they would never do if they were by themselves. So we know groups can totally change what we do. But what about what we think? Well, it turns out groups can act like a giant amplifier, cranking up the volume on whatever opinions we already have. It's a concept called group polarization, and it's kind of fascinating. You take a bunch of people who are already leaning one way on an issue, you put them in a room to talk about it, and what happens? They don't just come out agreeing with each other, they usually come out with a much more extreme version of their original opinion. And this isn't just a theory. The research on this is just wow. In one famous study, researchers put students who already had high prejudice views into a group. After they talked, their views became even more prejudiced. But when they did the same thing with low prejudice students, they became even more accepting. The group basically just turned up the volume on whatever was already there. So you've got all these powerful psychological forces floating around. It's probably no surprise that some people have gotten really, really good at using them on purpose. Let's talk about the art of persuasion. Generally speaking, persuasion comes at you in two main ways. First, there's the central route. This is the logical path. It's when you're genuinely interested and you're weighing the facts and the evidence. Then there's the peripheral route. This is the shortcut. It's not about facts, it's about cues. Is the person talking attractive? Is a celebrity endorsing it? It's all about style over substance. These two car ads are the perfect example. Look at the one on the left. It's hitting you with data, engine specs, safety ratings. That is pure central route persuasion. But then you look at the one on the right. It's not selling a car, it's selling a feeling, lifestyle, glamour, status. That's the peripheral route. Now, which one do you think works more often? So with all this going on, how do you protect yourself? How do you stay in control? Well, there's this amazing technique called attitude inoculation. And yeah, it works just like a vaccine for your brain. The idea is to expose yourself to weak, easy-to-refute arguments against your beliefs. You practice fighting them off, and that builds up your mental antibodies, so when a really strong, persuasive attack comes along, you're ready for it. And that really brings us right back to the beginning, doesn't it? This quote just nails the whole idea we've been talking about. The very act of taking a stand, of defending something, actually makes our belief in it that much stronger. So, what's the big takeaway here? It's that we are constantly being pulled and pushed by our own actions, by the groups we're in, and by countless persuasive messages. The most powerful influences, the real game changers, are the invisible ones, the subtle currents we don't even know are there. Well, until now. Now you know where to look.